Okay, so we talked about what everybody has in common in the core curriculum. Then we talked about what all of just the exercise science students have in common. And then we talked about just what the kinesiology students have in common. And now we're going to talk about what each of the programs have that are unique. So what is different between pre-physical therapy, fitness, and athletic training? And this is the most important part. The last has been to familiarize you again, to make sure that you're understanding the sequencing and contextual ideas behind your classes. But this is the most important part. If you are on the fence between which degree program, all of you were exposed to a small amount of this at orientation, but we're going to get into a little bit more of the details here. So the pre-physical therapy program, I started with this one because number one, it's our largest group, but number two, it's actually the easiest. Your program is grad school directed. Again, we talked about this, but the only uniqueness of your program in terms of the disciplines or curriculum or courses that are required is that you're required to take 2 physics semesters that no one else in the program takes. So you have an advantage in your biomechanics class, which if we were together, I just kind of blew the answer on that one, but what exercise science discipline is founded on physics, laws, and principles, and it's biomechanics. We talked about that one last time. But those of you who are in the pre-PT program have a big advantage. You're required to take physics, and it helps you in your ENS 306 class. So everyone else, if you struggle in biomechanics, you might have to get tutoring or figure out a way to go back and do some basic physics refreshers. They're basic physics principles, but one that you may not have been exposed to yet. Also, your program requires that none of the other programs require abnormal psychology. And this is basically the study of, when things aren't right in the way people's brains process and work. Depression, anxiety, learning disorders, paranoia, etc. So you'll learn about some of the ways that those manifest from physiological terms, how they're researched and studied, and really most importantly for us in the field of health and rehabilitation is understanding that our patients are going to have a pretty complex and diverse mental profile. And so we have to understand about some of these abnormalities that are common in rehabilitative populations. Also looking at why we take abnormal psychology. I was like, why do I have these up here? The DPT prerequisites. So the Doctorate in Physical Therapy program prereqs require, and I listed all these, but we've already talked about them: stats, a semester of physio, anatomy, bio, the year of chem, year of bio. But the psychology, you have upper division psychology requirement. So you have to have 1 year of psych, and at least one of those semesters has to be upper division. So it's just an important note because a lot of the students that want to go to OT school, occupational therapy, they have to take developmental psych. And so they'll ask, can I take psych 230? And then I'm going, well, then you've committed to, not going to PT or taking an additional psych class because they do require 1B upper level, 300 level or higher. So abnormal psychology, psych 350. Now, I want to just talk a little bit more because there's not a whole lot to the pre-physical therapy program except that you have to have extra physics and abnormal psych because they're PT school prereqs. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about DPT programs. So you are on your way to earn a 3-year professional doctorate. And that is different than an academic doctorate. An academic doctorate is a PhD. That's what your university professors likely have. And it means that they have a doctorate in the subject of philosophy, or in other words, thinking. They know how to apply critical thinking skills, deductive and inductive reasoning skills to be able to, conclude and share information to the people. So they're experts in this way. So you're getting a professional doctorate, like a medical degree, an MD, or a law degree, which is a JD, a Juris Doctorate. You will have a physical therapy doctorate. So in this program that lasts 3 years, you will take classes. Most of them, they're a little bit, abbreviated here, but this is the gist. And I also listed, it doesn't look like a lot because you have 13 units of just musculoskeletal therapeutics. So this is a look at your curriculum. Lots of therapeutics classes, and you can also see some organization stuff. So how physical therapy offices are ran, like how the administration's done, healthcare economics, like how things are paid for, healthcare financing. And we'll talk a lot more about this stuff. Well, not a lot more. We'll talk some more about this stuff in part 3 when we get to practice, how does your major go to practice, then we talk about that there. But also you've got your basic stuff that you're in now, only at a higher level: clinical anatomy, pathophysiology, physiology, same stuff we've been saying. So that's what your curriculum looks like. And again, your program really is just a springboard to get over here, because you're not going to get any of this in your major program of study at the bachelor's level. Oh, and last thing on you guys, I want you to read more about how DPT programs are accredited. I'm big on students understanding the accrediting, because some of the programs are accredited and some aren't. And of course, the accredited programs are better because they come with something. And in this case, the DPT program comes with your ability to take your state license test. But some programs that you could enroll in, take classes, and graduate from aren't accredited, meaning you couldn't go online or you couldn't go and take your state exam for your license. So I like the students to understand accreditation. I had no concept of what that was at the undergraduate level, and I was in the accredited didactic program, but I did not have any clue what that meant. So I want you guys to learn a little more about it. So the next emphasis that is unique is the fitness specialist emphasis. And this program gets more fitness assessment and programming. And you guys also saw that we had this in for everyone, but it was for unhealthy populations. And so you're going to get more of it for healthy populations. You're going to get some gerontology and aging concepts, musculoskeletal fitness, and you also get a Capstone Internship and instructional leadership class that go together. And you guys too need to learn more about accreditation. So you're not going to be joining a accredited doctoral program for physical therapy, but you will probably earn a certification. You'll probably earn your PT or your CSCS or your, and PT meaning personal trainer, not physical therapist. There's a lot of letters in this game that are very similar. RD, DPD, DPT. It's confusing, I know you guys, but anyway, bear with me. You guys learn more about it too, because you're going to pick an organization to certify with, and we'll talk more about those later, but you have to understand which ones are accredited and which ones aren't. It's important. It's a waste of time if they're not. Exercise, fitness, and health. So you will have more, this fitness specialist students will have more exercise, fitness, and health classes where you'll have more about the benefits and risks of physical activity, lower level stuff, overview of chronic conditions and how exercise benefits them, more on health risk assessment. I mean, how many times have I used the word assessment? Because a lot of your program is assessing how people are before and after your exercise. Fitness assessment, you'll learn about gold standard protocols for all sorts of different types of tests, physiologic measures, how to do metabolic calculations like metabolic rate, how to do cardiorespiratory endurance tests, and they sound complicated, like a cardiorespiratory endurance test, but we're talking about, the 1 mile test that you did in school, or a step test that you would do with a personal trainer just so he could see where to start. Balance and agility tests and anthropometry, like we talked about before, body fat measures. We could test someone's power. We could test all of these. I just threw a few examples over here. Power is tested by doing like a rep max, which we could do with a bench press. We could do a pull-up test. So lots of different ways to assess power. And so, yeah, just that you're going to learn more about assessment in this exercise, fitness, and health class only for healthy populations. You're also going to learn, like I mentioned, more about older folks, and you're going to learn this specifically pertaining to exercise, about some of the challenges that elderly people face in terms of their wellness. So, appetite, depression, grief, financial insecurities, and it sounds super sad. We feel like as we age, we should be more secure and set up and comfortable and living out our days hanging out with our grandkids. But unfortunately, elderly people sometimes end up not very healthy because of all sorts of reasons I just mentioned. So you'll learn about some of those challenges, and then some of the different biological aging and theories and processes. So just for example, how our cell ages and some of the different things that contribute to the pace of our cell aging, like free radicals and cell turnover. You'll learn about lifespan and life expectancy, all of those kind of things. And then more importantly, the biometric assessments, there it is again, that go along with aging, things like muscle atrophy and sarcopenia, and what happens, what is the loss in ventilatory or respiratory function as we age. I think it's something like maybe at 10% per decade or something you lose in your respiratory or ventilatory capacity. So you'll learn about all those changes, and because why? It affects how they would do fitness, right? It would affect how they would exercise. And then you'll also too learn a little bit about their healthcare, what kind of healthcare they get, and Social Security programs that are set up for them, and what kind of organizations are advocacy organizations for older folks. So it's important you're familiar with those things, because if you're smart, you'll probably target some of these guys that do have money, because they are a big part of the population, and the portion of them that do have money aren't afraid to spend it on their health and wellness. So you'll also take more musculoskeletal fitness classes, and you'll learn in this class and series of classes. We're kind of remodeling this right now. It's one, but it might be several more units by the time you get there, and we'll adjust something else. But anyway, you'll take some more musculoskeletal fitness classes, and that will include learning about neuromuscular adaptations to resistive training. So how, again, it'll be a reminder. You'll start with how those neurons recruit muscle fibers, how those nerves interface those fibers. Same thing I've introduced. So you'll learn about that, and how over time with resistance training, those innervations are stronger, neurotransmittal signals are stronger, the muscle fibers bigger, there are more of them. So you'll learn about those things. You'll also learn about, again, something I've brought up, but like metabolic specificity. So what energy system am I training right now? Should I be training with you hurdler? Should I be training your glycolytic system, or should I be training your oxidative system? Probably your glycolytic one if you're doing a short 200-meter hurdle. And don't quote me, I don't even know if a 200-meter hurdle exists, but something short and high intensity. Also, you'll learn about overtraining and detraining. These are things that can happen to athletes and even just regular weightlifting people often, and the importance of periodization in preventing that. You'll learn about how training cycles are set up. You can see like just a glimpse down here of like a meso, macro, and micro cycle. These are kind of the way they set up sports teams for their weight training programs. And so it prevents that overtraining and detraining phases. Exercise sequencing and technique. So, do we work the small muscles first or the large muscles first? So the sequencing of the different exercises to elicit muscle groups, and then the techniques in which exercises should be done. And I'll show you a little video of just the slightest differences that are even hard to catch in doing a powerlifting versus an Olympic lifting technique. Squat, watch.
The purpose of this video, so like this for the clean and like that for the snatch. To do that, the Olympic weightlifters initiate the descent by pushing their knees forward.
Let me stop by saying right now he's showing the Olympic squat, and he's saying that they descend pushing knees forward, because I know I kind of fast forwarded awkward. So he's showing Olympic.
Or a so-called knee break. So the knee break of the Olympic weightlifting. I'll show the powerlifting descent one more time.
Compared to powerlifting.
Which is the hip break.
Hip break. Hip break versus knee break. It's hard to even see the difference.
Open eye.
Watch, you can see it one more time.
Break of the Olympic weightlifting.
Knee break.
I'll show the powerlifting descent one more time, which is a hip break.
Oh, that's the hip break. I didn't go back far enough.
I hope you're not seeing a difference.
I got excited like I was teaching that topic instead of the topic of the disciplines and coursework that you're going to learn about in your program of study. So in this musculoskeletal fitness class or classes, you will learn about these different techniques for different outcomes related to sport and performance. Let's see. The last thing for the fitness specialist group, like I mentioned, you get to do a Capstone Internship. So this is a last semester course where you'll get to do experience out in the field and obviously earn units for it. It's a 3-unit class. You have to work in a novel setting. She has a whole list of settings that are available, and you can pick something in corporate wellness. And if you like corporate wellness, on the list that we have a learning agreement with, you'll find like Sony, a couple different, I'm drawing a blank now, and I was going to bring it up for you, but it's in ENS advising, that thing that you have in Blackboard. If you went under your major fitness specialist internship, but you guys have a while before you have to think about it, but you can kind of get a concept, and we'll talk again in part 3 about different settings for practice areas, but corporate wellness, research, fitness, regular fitness facilities. What's another one on there? There's youth sports and exercise. So anyway, you'll pick a novel place or setting, and you will go out and work in it. And then you'll do small assignments for the class, and you'll get to see how these businesses are run and how they are managed. To go with that class, you'll learn about how to teach people and adults specifically in clinical settings. And it says clinical, but it could be any setting, a fitness setting, a community setting, whatever it is, a setting where you are teaching adults. So you're not teaching children in school, but you're teaching adults, which have different learning styles. So you'll be learning about how to assess adult learning, and you'll be learning about a topic called pedagogy, which is the study of learning. What worked? What are the learning outcomes that worked? What are the learning outcomes that didn't work? And what approaches were used? So again, you'll be learning about basically the subject of teaching. And if you like that, you might like to be a teacher, because that's what teachers should like to do, is get better at their craft. Let's see. Let's move on to athletic training. So the uniqueness of the athletic training program is that you don't have any of those classes that I just talked about for kinesiology, PrePhysical Therapy, or fitness specialists, but you have lots and lots of courses. In fact, I think a 12-unit course series in sports medicine and a couple classes on pre-professional training. So your sports medicine series includes, your sports medicine series includes several units of sports injuries classes. I think this is where the 12 units are just in injuries. You'll also have principles and techniques in therapeutic exercise. So learning about how, techniques is how to increase range of motion, flexibility, strength, and endurance, and specifically in athletes. So again, we're going to kind of skip past the whole like inpatient older population or any other, reason. I paused right there. We're going to focus specifically on athletes in this class. You're also going to get a neat class in pathology of medical conditions. And I think this is a cool class. It's ENS 466, but it has a bunch of guest medical experts, like an endocrinologist, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, an orthopedic guy, just a bunch of different types of doctors that talk about different medical issues and how it relates to our field of study. But they also have a bunch of efficacy controversies, and any kind of controversies or debates are always fun with me. But they look at does kinesiotape really work? And you guys read articles about this stuff too. How is chocolate milk is a good recovery drink for contact athletes? What else is another one you might hear about? Efficacy of different treatments, like say, I'm drawing another blank. I don't have my notes in front of me, but anyway, you'll have lots of different fun things, and it'll change by the time you get there anyway, if your faculty is doing a good job, but they'll be switching up and talking about different current trends in practice. Do they work or do they not? Back up here to the sports injury stuff. A big part of your program is basically evaluating injuries and kind of like diagnosing them, right? So looking at something on the field at the time and figuring out what happened, or maybe shortly after in the training room, if it's not like a, ambulance type situation. So you have a video here that's showing a process where he's trying to figure out if it's a meniscus or an ACL by performing a particular type of test.
On the athlete's foot, just a little pressure to keep it nice and stable. I've got both hands right underneath the tibia. And again, I'm just pulling that tibia forward. So you can kind of see Grant, and Grant has a healthy ACL. So right when I bring it out, it locks. So if he had a torn ACL, we would see this shifting a lot further. So once I've determined that, okay, it's an ACL, I'm probably going to make sure and test all the other ligaments. So another thing I might test is that MCL. So gently letting that knee relax, I'm going to do what's called a valgus stress test, where I'm just testing to see if that MCL, which prevents our knee from going in, is stable.
Okay, AT, if you guys don't get excited by that job, then you may want to read through all of the different syllabi for ENS 365, 367, 368, because you're going to have a whole lot of learning about different injuries, how to diagnose them and assess them, how to treat them, etc. So I think your program is awesome, but that is what a large portion of it is. So make sure you're into it and that looks exciting and fun to you. You're also going to get organization and administration and athletic training concepts, where you learn about like how athletic departments are run, what are ethical issues that athletes and athletic directors and coaches deal with, risk management strategies, facility design, like, how do we design where the administrative offices go versus the basketball courts versus the volleyball courts. And I know that sounds silly, but people that work in high level, even at the high school level, like your athletic directors, they plan, the facilities a lot of times, schedules, drug testing for athletes, policies, all sorts of things you'll learn about. And then the biggest part of your program is your practicum. So you have a 2-year, 20-hour per week commitment that'll total about 2,000 hours that spreads your entire junior and senior year, where you will work on that sports medicine stuff you're learning in class on the field in a sports setting. So you'll be assigned to a team, you'll take care of that team, and you will do just like what that video showed in caring for their injuries and hopefully preventing their injuries by regular daily treatment. So that's all I have. I hope you have a good understanding of the exercise science disciplines. What are the different things that this whole field of study is made up of? And what are the different unique areas of each of our programs of study, and how are they different from each other? That's really my big picture in this, so that when you walk away, you are ready to commit and go on your path. So thanks for listening. Take care.